it's happening. People are complaining about things they don't understand. Which doesn't make their complaining invalid. It just makes them look stupid. You see, at the beginning of time, Wild Rift was birthed out of the 3 polygons of League's old champions. And the moment it was announced that Wild Rift would be getting skins which wouldn't make it into League of Legends, people absolutely lost it. How dare they give this second-class citizen game a skin over their masterpiece? How dare they treat a mobile game with any kind of respect? Mobile players are dogs and they don't deserve anything cool. You think I'm joking, but this is genuinely the feedback that was floating around. And of course, those people were idiots. Because when it comes to skins in League of Legends and Wild Rift, the models are different format, with different animation drivers, made for totally separate engines, with one being Unity and the other being Riot Spaghetti, made by totally unrelated teams, which are literally on the other side of the world from each other. And we talked about all of this in a different video. So long story short, no, Wild Rift skins can't just be simply ported over to League. So what about TFT skins? That's right, being the chads they are. The TFT devs decided to further separate themselves from League to make themselves a more of a standalone game, which I believe they already are, by doubling down on unique units. By now, this isn't really anything new. Throughout the last few TFT sets, they gave us quite a few unique units. For example, Som, the new Baron, or even T-Hex are entirely new models built from scratch. But the thing with these is that these really were proper new units built from nothing. So as cool as they weren't the most efficient thing to pump out. Which is why in set 10, TFT is doing something clever. Instead of building entire units from scratch, they can make more of these by attaching them to already existing skeletons. In other words, it can be a lot more efficient by giving TFT exclusive skins. And you already know, after learning about this, some people were not happy. But before we get to that part, we kinda have to go through all the updates we just got. Because the entire tone of set 10 really matters. So, TFT's set 10 will likely be the biggest set we ever got. Not necessarily because of how many units we get or anything like that, it's more because of the scope of what they are working on. On top of all the new traits with some new specific units, which we'll get into in just a moment, the team also looked at the past sets and decided that set 10 should have all the best features from all the past sets. Which means that of course, augments are staying, but the set 9 portals were such a beloved feature that they are indeed staying as well. They will be less impactful than they were in set 9, but they will still be ready to modify your games. Which in my opinion is great. This mechanic is essentially an evolution of TFT Galaxies and I think it worked perfectly. On the other hand, set 9 also tried to fiddle with Legends. And because that mechanic was not so beloved, it will not be coming back. In my opinion, it's because it seemed far too easy to just let people force what they wanted to play even before the game started. Being flexible didn't feel as rewarding anymore. But then they also mentioned that they are bringing back one of TFT's most beloved mechanics, which at first might leave a lot of you confused because augments are staying in the game, so what else was just as beloved? Well, apparently, according to some metrics, people really liked the Chosen units. So yeah, Chosen units are back. I'll be honest, I really didn't like that mechanic. And there is many reasons why. My main issue is that it always felt like you were forced into locking into a specific comp. After you get a Chosen unit, it felt like you just had to roll with it. And you couldn't really look for the perfect one for too long, because the longer you waited, the more damage you took. That's how impactful they were. But thankfully, they are fixing a lot of these issues which I had with these. As I mentioned, after getting a Chosen unit, it was always extremely hard to swap away from it. Because you had to sell it, which meant that you lost all the bonus stats which they had, which meant that you were at a disadvantage, after which you had to burn a lot of gold and quickly look for another one. In other words, you are nearly guaranteed to just lose the next round if you wanted to swap. And thankfully, this is being fixed with two bigger changes. First of all, when you don't have a chosen unit, every shop will be guaranteed to give you one. But on top of that, while you already have one chosen unit, other chosens can still appear in the shop. So now you can properly plan ahead when you wanna swap. And as a bonus, the new chosen units will work like VIPs for Debonaires. Chosen units will have their abilities augmented. So, who knows? Maybe this new kind of chosen units is gonna be a lot better. Now next, this update then dives into the entire presentation of this set. And let me tell you, Riot is doing something incredible. Since this set is all about music, they made sure the music will transform alongside your team, which sounds crazy. Basically, TFT wrote 2 full tracks, but they gave each of them a cover based on every single one of the traits that will be in the set. Meaning that some of the versions will be a KDA version, a true damage version, a disco version, or even a pentakill version. I believe there is about 8 or 10 different covers, and depending on what trait dominates your board, the theme will change with it. But that's not all. The TFT team also recorded additional isolated instruments for each of these themes. It was done in such a way that it can be overlaid over either of those main themes. Which means that when you, for example, play a disco theme, the moment you put in a pentakill member, the disco theme will get a power metal guitar solo. And of course, when you drop in a whole unique legendary unit, they will alter the entire track. Once you'll get to hear this in action, you'll realize how cool this is. Which shouldn't be surprising given the fact that most of these tracks were recorded live. Now next, the update also jumps into cosmetics. Brace yourselves! First of all, the next Chibi Champion will be Heartsteel set, which should work just like every other Chibi Champion these days. The normal one will be paid for about 25 bucks or so, and the skin will be a light version of Gacha. After which they also revealed the KDA More arena. They didn't say what kind of an arena this is, but given the fact that these have fully 3D modeled members of KDA, such as Evelyn with her car, but also Akali and Ari on the washing machine, all of which are referencing the music video, I am pretty sure this is gonna be the super expensive mythic one. But then they announced that 2 weeks after that, we should also get Chibi KDA Akali. And then we will also be getting Chibi KDA Kaisa. At which point you might start wondering, which one of these is the $500 one? Well, it was confirmed that Kaisa and Akali will be available through Treasure Realms. And they will be there only till the next event. Which almost makes it feel like both of them will be part of that system. At which point I would like to say, you know what? If they actually give them both the $500 system, but halfway through there is a 50-50 roll on which one you get, and then at the $500 mark you are guaranteed to also get the other one, I would give it to them. That would be funny, amazing, and horrible at the same time. That would be a proper gacha banner system, and it would still be better than what we got last time. It would totally be the system where you make something expensive and then you make it cheaper while it still stays expensive and it looks better. And it would work. But honestly, I do not believe this is what Riot is going for. I think both of these are part of just the normal Treasure Realms, which are still a bit expensive, but we're used to it at this point. Though they did say that each of these roles will now give you a higher quality cosmetics, such as chibis, maybe mythic little legends, and even a small chance to give you a chibi variant. Which, yes, that does mean it gives you higher value, but the value is still an artificial number made up by Riot. After which they confirmed that the biggest high roll of them all is the Prestige KDA Kaisa. So, I think it is safe to assume that will be the $500 one. Though this time it feels like you might be getting slightly better things with all the rolls. Not that it makes the entire gacha system that much better. And after that, they also announced that they are working on a seasonal store. We don't know much about it, but we can assume it's gonna be a rotating store with rotating cosmetics. Which is where we dive into the last update about the pass. You see, since we are now getting 3 whole sets per year instead of just the 2 with their mid-seasons, it would also mean that we would be getting 3 passes per year instead of 4. Well, that's not happening. Because despite the fact that there is no mid-season update that would drive new cosmetic themes, each set is still getting 2 passes. Of course, because the time frame is shorter, there will be less progression and everything will go faster, but we are still getting 2 passes each set. Just because. And as a result, I would honestly expect Riot to lower the price of the passes a little bit or give us more in their value. Because now we are getting 6 passes per year instead of 4. And under the hood, that really just seems to be a price increase. With that said, they did say that these passes will have different high-value cosmetics at the end. So not all of them will be equal. For example, the first one will give us a neon stage arena, and the second one will give us sugarcone poro. I'm not sure you can really compare these 2 cosmetics and their values. Also, the sprite this time around will be boba tea. Okay, to be fair, that one looks good. Now after this, the team also talked about their updated support for mobile, which, I'll be honest, about 90% of all of my games are done on mobile in my bed. And they did also announce that their ranked system is getting the Emerald tier. And I am not exactly sure why they are doing this. In League, the Emerald tier was added in because the skill gap between Platinum 4 and Platinum 1 was absolutely massive. But in TFT, it never felt that way. Maybe it was masked by the amount of randomness that just happens on average, but in my opinion, it did kind of feel like a linear climb. So I am more convinced that TFT is getting this change for the sake of consistency with their other titles, since nearly every other game already has this. But now, with all the new traits and all the new mechanics, with the updated musical engine, Set 10 looks really good. It is obvious they put a lot of effort into it, which is why they decided to cap it off with entirely new skins for some of their units, which is where the talks began. Just like it happened with Wild Rift, some people couldn't believe another game is getting something which League isn't. But more than that, TFT is getting 9 of them. These are 4 superfans, those being Kennen, Nar, Nico and Lilia. There is a new skin for Ilaoi. Then we have Ziggs and Lulu with glitter bombs. We're also getting Maestro Jin. And lastly, Jazz Bard. Honestly, all of these look great, so it makes sense why some people are sad that these didn't make it into League. But there is a good reason why they can't be just ported over despite being on the same spaghetti engine. You see, unlike what Riot has to do for League, the development of TFT units is a lot simpler. First of all units in TFT only require 5 animations. Idle animation, dance animation, running animation, basic animation and ability animation. Compared to League, where the minimum is 15 animations, TFT only has to put in 1/3 of all of that work. And another thing to point out is visual clarity. In League, every champion needs to be readable no matter the circumstances. Yes, sometimes the champion just gets lost in teamfights, but at least they are trying. But in TFT, the only time you really need everything to be readable is before the fight. It's when you are scrolling through all the enemies and you are trying to see what they have on their board. The moment the fights start, clarity is no longer as important and everything can be turned into chaos. Though it is true that sometimes you are desperately trying to put items onto your team in the middle of the fight. Still, once the fight starts, your hands are off the keyboard. So the TFT team can give their units visuals that are insane just because they look cool. They don't have to think about readability that much. So all of those effects would have to be edited should they be ported into League. So the two biggest factors here are that 1. The VFX in TFT might be a total mess, but also, far more important than that, the TFT skins are simply incomplete. They are missing the vast majority of their visual effects, they shouldn't really have any unique sound effects, and they should be missing about 2/3 of their overall animations. Yes, they are still tied to the base skeletons, which are fully rigged, but who says that the mesh is gonna match? As long as it looks fine with those 5 animations, you're good. Lastly, everyone should remember that even though everyone is calling this exclusive skins, they are not really skins. The truth is, Riot is not selling these. These are not directly driving profit. The only way they can make money is when they make more people play the game. And when they do, those units are free. I've seen so many people cry that yet again another game is getting a cosmetic which they should have lost their money on in League of Legends. But truth be told, that set will be gone one day, and with it, all those skins will go too. So the TFT players are not getting cosmetics over everyone else. This is something a lot of people are ignoring, and they shouldn't. So in the end, can Riot turn these into proper League skins? Yes, but there will be a lot of work to actually finish these. So perhaps, with a bit of kind-hearted feedback, Riot might look into that. But speaking of kind-hearted feedback, this video would not be complete without us going to all the specific champions and seeing how people reacted to these glorious news. We can't really talk about skins and monetization without a little bit of drama. So you know what? Let's go on a little bit of an adventure. With our first stop being Canon mains who could have gotten their superfan skin. Well, you see, the last post here is from 6 days ago. Nothing got posted for a while. But eventually someone made a post and the comment said, trash! On the other side, we also have Gnar mains, who also stayed hibernating for a while. In fact, they stayed quiet for 3 more hours before they replied. And those 2 comments don't give us a lot to work with. After this, we decided to check Illaoi mains. When this is one of your latest posts, I think it is safe to say that this place is dead. So instead, how about we dive into Bard mains, where we can find sadness. No real rage, nothing like that, just most people are sad. Also, there is one person who doesn't like all the comedic skins that Bard is getting, which, to be honest, I am absolutely on their side with this, despite them being downvoted into oblivion. As a former Bard main myself, I never really clicked with any of his skins. I always liked serious skins more too. I mean, imagine what an old god Bard would have looked like. Anyway, when I then jumped into the Ziggs main subreddit, I learned that that place exists. They don't really care about any of that, I guess. I mean, there was one post that came before the TFT announcement. Why the f does Ziggs get 1 skin per year? Isn't his player base like non-existent? Don't get me wrong, I love that he gets some love, but I thought he had zillion levels of play rate and popularity. Oh, wait till they learn about this one. And connected to Ziggs, we also have Lulu, where also no one cares about this one. Now, of course, Jhin mains are a little bit more interesting. Naturally, some people weren't happy that Jhin got some cool skins in Wild Rift. He got a super expensive chroma, and now they teased something new for TFT. And surprisingly, others were somewhat understanding to what TFT is getting. No one really lost it. Which is where some Lilia mains didn't disappoint. KDA Lilia outsold! Time to terrorize Riot to get this as a skin. Get to QOL, girlies, and we fight Riot. Seriously, don't harass Riot employees and ask them nicely. They won't do it anyway. Lilia and Nico players don't have any power. Riot has proven that even now with Heartsteel that asking nicely gets nothing done. We can ask Riot for the skin, I guess. After which, we get to the Nico mains, who managed to make 3 fan arts in the matter of hours after the announcement. Now, thankfully, the real talk about all of these skins was happening on the Queens of League subreddit. Somehow. Again. And somehow, they were the most reasonable of them all. What kind of an alternative universe is this? I am as confused as this person, to be honest. Though to be fair, there was also some sadness. With that said, it is funny to point out that this is the same person who complained in Lilia mains. Anyway, that's really it for this TFT update. As I mentioned, this entire set looks incredible. And I honestly love the fact that the TFT team is giving their game their own unique units. It really shows how far TFT got. And at this point, I can't wait to see what future sets will look like. Especially since they mentioned that one day we will go back to just base Runeterra set. So how many unique models will we get there? With that said, I really want to point out one more thing. When I was reacting to all the news on Twitch live, someone mentioned something amazing. What happens if you don't play any traits at all? What's happening with the music? What if Build Different came back? Would it be Build Different? Or would it be Build Def? Would it be Build Def Diff at that point?